and welcome to episode 113 of the Arena Regulars podcast. I'm Zach,
And I'm Jeff.
and we're your source for drunken Magic the Gathering arena content.
That's right. We're a couple of regular dudes drinking some irregular beers and talking about Magic the Gathering, in particular, the online client MTG Arena.
That is right. And the new set, March of the Machine, just came out on Arena this last week. So this is our first Sips episode, or our first thoughts on the set. But first, each week we both bring a beer, we drink Jeff's, then drink mine, rate them on a scale of bronze to mythic, and choose the best for last. So with that, Jeff, what's on tap?
All right, here we have Iron Horse Trail IPA from Stockyards Brewing. This was the last, this is the last remnant of my trip to Ottawa, the last one I brought back. And I've never actually tried this one, so it's a 6.3% IPA.
Sweet. I am excited. It's a bronze winner of the Canadian Brewing Awards. So,
Uh-oh, bronze.
yeah, I mean, that means something different in
Hopefully.
in the beer world for us. Maybe this is our first bronze beer.
Yeah.
Anyway, let's crack this open. And but with that, we have some Magic news. The Arena Open is this weekend, April 29th to the 30th. It is Mom Limited, which is sealed and draft. So go check that out if you're interested in some competitive Magic this weekend. Maybe you'll win $2,000. But next week, Jeff, a new set just came on Arena. We're doing the whole thing. We have the metagame challenge this weekend, and then upcoming weekend we have the Arena Open, all the fun stuff. So as they've planned it and the way that the cycle goes, we have some previews starting next week.
Of course.
So if you weren't privy to this, March of the Machine has an epilogue set. It is called March of the Machine, The Aftermath. It is a 50 card set coming in for paper products. It's coming with like 5 card boosters, I think. And basically the story is next week, May 1st, and then the card previews are the 2nd and the 3rd. The paper product comes out on the 12th of May, and then I think I read somewhere that the one for Arena comes on the 18th, but that doesn't really make sense. I think it's probably the 16th, which is a Tuesday. Mm-hmm. But so if you needed more cards to read or more stuff to do, there's more. So that's exciting.
Yeah. I think a bunch of this was spoiled because I accidentally stumbled across it.
It was leaked.
Or sorry, leaked. Yeah, not spoiled. So I saw a few of the cards and realized, oh, this must be the Aftermath set, and then I
stopped,
exited so that I could be surprised by spoilers. But there's some stuff. There's
some stuff. This is, I don't know if this is it's got to be the first time that they've done this, right? So the set, you might be thinking, oh, that's weird, a 50 card set. It's standard legal, and the point of it is to be more of a lore focused set. So the idea is that the March of the Machine story has ended, and this is the epilogue, which is the epilogue boosters, to try to kind of explain in cards what happened to all the different planes and where everyone is now after the whole invasion, which is an interesting idea. I think it'll be cool to see them use this tool in different ways, as long as they don't do it too often. But
yeah, if it's every set,
it's
it's a little tiring.
What's the fucking point? But after every huge arc, or it's weird because it's like, hey, it's like a block, but not really. I wish they kind of just waited longer for it to be a thing, but when they first announced that they were doing it, I was like, okay, and then it'll be a month later. It's like, not really. The cards will be coming out a month after, but you'll see previews next week. So Magic does what it wants to do. So
always previews.
Always previews. But Jeff, let's stop talking about the future. Let's start talking about what's happening right now. Currently, March of the Machine, the set, draft is on the table. mostly. Though we will be talking later in this episode about our worthless lots for standard decks, so stay tuned for that. But I've mainly been playing draft, and I want to know what you've been thinking because last week we talked about my pre-release experience. So, what has your experience been with March of the Machine?
Okay, so Zach and I talked a little bit about this off air, but I ran into some technical difficulties and I couldn't actually run Arena for a little while. Eventually, I sorted that out. Um, but the sort of net result of that is that on the days when I had some time to actually play, instead I was troubleshooting. So basically, I have done one draft.
Okay.
I got 6 wins, so I might just
Okay.
like if I'd gotten 7, I would have just stopped there, retired as the ultimate March of the Machine drafter.
Yeah.
Um, but I think because I only got 6, I have to keep going.
I
Uh,
yeah, I think that's fair. I think that's fair for sure.
yeah, I drafted Knights, blue white Knights,
Okay.
and my sample size is small, but I think Knights is busted.
Hmm.
I it felt very very good, and actually the game 6 like I was 6-2, right?
Yeah, classic.
Um, and I lost to a better blue white Knights deck because because I kind of waffled a bit. I was trying to like stay open and I didn't know what was good. And then I just kept seeing these Knights cards. So I was like, fuck it, let's try Knights. So my opponent was very clearly like into Knights a little earlier than I was
Yeah.
because they had all the uncommons and all the good commons and stuff. So and they were on the play. So I was just like, okay, well,
What are you gonna do?
they the Knights theory is not debunked though, because only thing that could beat me was Knights, and then the other 2 decks that beat me. Um, the format was pretty fun. I had a lot of fun in the draft. It was really difficult to navigate the draft because we knew this was going to happen, but I couldn't read. I didn't have time to read all the cards.
Yeah.
So I think that's partly why I liked Knights too, because Knights are mostly like it's a knight. If you have a knight, it does this,
Hmm.
or like gets +1/+1, or freezes
First
something.
strike or whatever. Yeah.
Right. And I was like, okay, I can very quickly read this and I know that it's pretty good in my deck. And worst case scenario, I spend a bunch of time reading and I just take whatever card says knight in the creature type.
Hmm.
And like it's probably a reasonable pick. Um, so I'm excited to like get a few more drafts under my belt where maybe I know once you start to recognize the cards by sight, just the picture gets a lot easier.
Hmm.
Um, but yeah, it felt and the gameplay was fun too. I I felt like I was kind of steamrolling people, so I felt like Knights was probably pretty good because especially the classic creature decks in the early
Hmm.
phases of a draft format when people are messing around um, tend to be pretty good. Like just every card in your deck's a creature. You're just playing a creature every turn. You attack. You're going to win a lot of games that way.
Yeah.
But the Knights deck was giving me some free wins, man. It was like I have a 2-drop 3/1 that's basically going to be indestructible. Or sorry, well, his first strike.
Yeah.
And then like my 4-drop's going to come down and friggin' frost links something. And it's just like this. I was on the play, so I guess you lose because this was my hand. Like,
Yeah.
uh, felt very, very good.
Yeah. That sounds like my experience playing against that deck, especially because the
Yeah,
Lord comes down and is like, "Oh, do you have a one good block? Never mind, you don't have that good block because I'm
yeah.
just going to tap it." Or there's a lot of like good tempo pieces in blue that like bounce your opponent's shit or like really throws them off guard. So um, that has been the fast good deck that comes out swinging, and I have
Mm-hmm.
not been able to put it together. However, as you have had computer issues this week, I have also had computer issues, and so my first draft on Arena was on my phone. Um,
Mm,
so
I did not
uh,
think of that. I actually, well, I thought of it, but I was like, am I going to read these cards on my phone? How the hell am I going to do that?
yeah, so I it makes it hard. Um, It makes it really hard. It's already hard to draft on your phone. I've drafted sets on my phone before where I didn't know them very well. This one was the
Hmm.
hardest. Um,
Yeah.
and I think overall, I've probably drafted like 5 or 6 times, and I have not liked it at all. I've been having a really rough. It's
Is
been a
that
rough
code for
week.
you've been losing or?
Yeah, yeah, I've been losing pretty badly. I think there was one deck I played where I got like above 4 wins. So it's been like
Ouch. Yeah.
2 threes, 0 threes. So
That's a rough start.
if you're out there, I think it's just because um, your experience has been like one great fast deck. I haven't been able to build a fast enough deck. I've
Mhm.
built enough decks that like almost get there, and then your opponent can. There's swingy stuff where your opponent can come back and just you can just lose where it looks like, oh, I play in a way even with my bombs and stuff. I'm like, I'm going to win this game, and then I might make a lapse in judgment or something happens, and then all of a sudden the game's just like unwinnable in like 2 or 3 turns later, and I'm like, oh, I made a mistake 4 turns ago by playing another creature when I should have tried to pressure more damage, and like things like that, which are maybe I'm just not used to. I think I'm just like, I don't like this set because I'm mad that I'm losing, and I don't want to look at why I'm losing or figure it out. I'm just upset that I am, and I don't know what to do
I
about it.
can tell you why you're losing.
Why?
There's no toxic.
That's true. Yeah, I do like toxic. Um, so I think I got 1 6 win deck, and that was with like what I thought was a really, really. It was, oh, it was a fucking train wreck of a draft. It was the biggest
Classic.
train wreck where I had been drinking a little bit, and of course,
Mhm.
and I was waffling between playing white red or blue red, uh, and so I was kind of drafting like this weird Jeskai deck, but then I would accidentally draft cards where I'm like, oh, I'm just gonna play white blue now, but then I draft red cards, forgetting that I was not drafting that, and it was just like all over the place, and I ended up being able to build this deck that was like mainly blue red. It splashed for Zergo, the Zergo and Ojitai,
Yeah. A
and
ridiculous card.
I think I ended up doing quite well with that somehow. I don't know really what happened, um, but that was one of those decks where I'm like, oh, that was horrible. I was gonna name it like worst deck ever, just because it was like it was just I barely had enough playables. Like I had to scrape everything together. It
Worst
was
deck ever, but my best deck,
yeah,
apparently. Like
apparently. So
personal performing best deck.
which is hard because now I just feel like, what's what's going on? What am I supposed to do? Like I don't know what I'm
Right.
doing. I was like, I don't know if any of the cards are good. I don't know what's going on. I feel so lost. It's so bad, Jeff. It's so bad. Oh my gosh. So I'm hoping that it's just because I don't know all the cards well enough yet. Though at this point, I feel like I kind of know what all the cards do. So
Yeah. I
yeah.
like it's funny you talk about swinginess because I definitely encountered that, like where there were games where my like inner self or just my like autopilot, I guess, my natural limited player inside
Mhm.
me was like, this game is over. There is no chance that I lose this game. And then my opponent plays one card, and I'm like, oh, actually,
I didn't.
that's gonna change things.
Yeah.
Uh, Now it's like, now we need to top deck something. The biggest one, because there were two different games. I beat this card twice, and both times I should have lost to it, I think. But it was rare, but it's I had to look this up. It's Boonbringer Valkyrie.
Oh yeah.
It is a 4/4 flying first strike lifelink backup one. Or sorry, backup ones before all that. Otherwise,
Hmm.
wouldn't give it to it. Man, that card can swing some shit.
It's
It's
yeah.
5 life linking damage right now. and then 4 for all subsequent turns. It's like nigh impossible to race it. I had a really interesting game where I had like 5 creatures out to my opponent's 2 or whatever. That was my, all right, job done. Like
Yeah,
they have
it's
no cards
over.
in hand. Like
They can't.
we win.
Yeah.
They draw 1 card. This was the card they drew. They slam it. I'm just like, oh. So now I have like, even though I think I was at 20, or at
Mhm.
least I was at like 18 maybe. I was like, oh, so now we have like 2 draw steps, or we're gonna lose. Huh. And then I drew the freezer, the like Frostlink's Knight.
Oh, night. Yeah, yeah.
And I was like, oh, that actually swings the race exactly in my favor because I had some flyers as well. It's like
Mhm.
tapping it down for the as a blocker and then for the 1 attack was like exactly enough. So I played it and I'm like, you top deck me, I top deck you. And then my opponent top decks the creature that exiles something and it has like
And
plain
brings
cycling.
it back.
So no, so the one that plain cycling that exiles one of my things,
Oh, gotcha, gotcha, gotcha.
and they exiled my only like my win con basically, and then also loaded up the extra ground blocker they needed to
Hmm.
survive the all out attack, and then I top deck the aura that gives something flying and +2/+2 to
Nice.
like make another flyer that was going to be lethal. And it was just like we literally just top decked each other back and forth 4 times in a row, and I was just like on the lucky end of
End of the
that.
stick. Oh,
Um,
that's awesome.
but it's like I got the feeling that this is the type of format where that type of stuff's going to happen a lot because some of the cards are just so powerful and
Yeah.
do so many things, right? So generally you feel comfortable if you're 2 cards up in a situation, right? Like
Mm.
there's no 1 card they could draw that's going to save them because I'm 2 cards up. But so many cards are 2 cards in this format that it's like, oof.
It's it's not only that, it's just like there are so many other random cards that you're going to lose to that aren't even in the set, you know? Like
Right.
the legend sheet like really matters
Yeah.
because
Like Raph is still busted.
yeah, Raph is
That hasn't
busted.
changed.
Uh I've had some of the like demigods or what's her name? The green one that like every time a creature enters the battlefield, it gets a +1/+1 counter.
Yeah,
Um
that's really good
yeah,
in limited.
those things like that you're just like not really expecting because you don't think it's really going to happen in this set is crazy. And I ended up drafting, this was one of my worst decks, but it was super fun because it was so stupid. But like my pack one pick one was uh the team up like Juru and Hazaret. And
Mhm.
so it's like 2 red white for a 5/4 god human, I think, or something. But anyway, if you don't have any cards in your hand, it has vigilance and haste. But when it attacks, you get to look at like the top 6 cards of your deck, and you get to play a legendary for free. And so then
Right.
when I got that, I was like, this is weird, but I might try it. And then the next card that I got, my pack one pick two was somebody ended up passing me Niv Mizzet Reborn. So I was like, I think I have to build this stupid deck. So it ended up being like
You do have to. Yeah.
it ended up being like 5 color guild legends, basically, which is like
Right.
I
You're
took
trying to
any
build Niv Mizzet in
yeah.
limited. Yeah.
And
That deck's
it
hard enough to build and construct it, man.
yeah. It was not super great, but taking like as many of the gain lands as I could, and along the way, I ended up getting Omnath too, and so then so
You're literally playing my Explorer deck.
it was so stupid. So like, I had like the green creature that untaps a land, so like you just have a bunch of the gain lands to get all your different colors, and then like you could end up I turned 3'd Omnath by paying the 2 life for black. And then I ended up being able to turn 4 Niv Mizzet because I can untap one of my lands that has double colors. And then,
Mhm.
so I have a screenshot of me like with Niv Mizzet on the stack and my opponent at 16 just conceding because they're like,
Yeah.
I'm not playing this game. Um, I still went like 2-3 with that deck. It was pretty bad because there was one game where like I even had all my mana, I did all my stuff, but I drew out. I drew too many cards, and I just couldn't
Oh,
kill them.
jeez.
Yeah, I just couldn't do it. So the board got too stuffed,
Yeah.
and I was like, well, that's it. Because, it turns out that a lot of the like guild colored legends or just a lot of like legend cards um don't necessarily work well together. It's like
Yeah.
Dina, and you're like, sick. If I gain life, this will be good. But none of my cards gain life. And like this card that like helps for equipped creatures, but I don't have any equipment,
Oh,
stuff like
not
that.
that.
It's
Yeah.
just like not good. I had both
All just to enable Niv.
yeah, just for Nib Mizzet. And then for Juru and Hazoret, I had Yargle, and then I also had Yargle and Multani, which is just like stupid shit. It's like so basically my win con was like I need to put the wings, the +2/+2 and draw card aura onto Multani and
Love it.
uh, Yargle and attack in the air.
Yeah,
That was basically
for 20.
that was it.
It's perfect.
That was my only win condition basically. So it was a bad deck, but it was fun. And that's the most fun I think I've had with the set was playing this stupid deck where everything else has just
It
felt
sounds awesome.
it's yeah.
You're playing Omnivore.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'm so jealous of that. That sounds amazing. I'm just picturing you with like Jeru and Hazoret on the battlefield and like 12 cards in hand.
Basically.
Like, uh-oh.
So
Not gonna
they
turn this thing on anytime soon.
nope. No, it's just a 5/4 that attacks and plays cards for free. But
Did you ever live the dream of Hazoreting into Nifmizzet?
no, because most of the time when I would Hazoret, I would fail to find.
Yeah, makes sense.
Classic. Because usually the turn, like I would play it and be like, well, there's only one card in my hand, so I can't attack, but next turn I'll be able to attack and do something. And then I draw a Nibizzet. And then I'm like,
Classic.
no, leave it on the top.
Yeah.
So that ended up being a bummer. But there is this draft format, there's so much going on, which is well, I think I need to take a step back and instead of trying to kill people quickly, I think I just have to play Magic differently or play limited differently than most sets.
Mhm.
Because it just feels so much different and there's so many weird decision points. Like all the different battles that come into play are like mini Scheherazade games that you're playing, debating like, is this worth like do I care about this one? Which ones do I care about? And can I let you have this? Can I not let you have this? And doing any of that stuff, it's been a lot. So
Yeah. Yeah, I would say in this set more than any, like you should always be doing this a little bit, but the thing in this set to watch out for is cards you lose to, because that's like the fastest way to basically, if you're just trying to identify what cards are good only by looking at how they perform for you, it's going to take you longer than if you look at how it, everybody's data.
yeah,
And the data that you have access to is your side of the performance, but also your opponents.
yeah,
What are the cards that they're beating you with? Normally, it's like you do that a little bit, and you're like, okay, I wasn't sold on this card, but now that I've seen it in action, okay. You're starting to change my mind. This set is a lot more like I didn't understand what that card did. And now that I've played against it a couple of times, I realize it's busted. Like there's going to be a lot more of that.
Yeah, there actually is one card in particular that's very much I didn't know what that card did, and I've there's some stuff on Twitter talking about it a little bit, and I think Louis Scott Vargas was specifically saying he thinks it's a mistake and shouldn't be in the set, which is very interesting. But it's Phyrexian Censor.
I was literally just looking at. I have this card on my screen right
Yeah.
now. I'm looking at it.
So it's 2 and a white for a 3/3 Phyrexian Wizard, and it says each player can't cast more than one non-Phyrexian spell each turn. and then non-Phyrexian creatures enter the battlefield tapped. The big thing is each player can't cast more than one non-Phyrexian spell, because what happens is if you attack a battle and attack it down, what it says is you exile it and cast that card.
Cast it.
So
Right.
what will happen a lot of times is that people
And
will
they're never Phyrexians on the other side.
never. So what will happen is if you play a card first that's not Phyrexian and then attack a battle to nothing, you won't be able to
You
cast
miss
it.
your battle. Yeah.
And
Yeah, that's something I would have missed too until like it happened to me.
yeah. So that's really important to remember that like if your opponent has that card, you cannot attack a battle if you've played a non-Phyrexian card that turn.
That's super
Because
annoying. It feels like the dev team missed that or
mhm,
something. Like this card was developed in a different like ecosystem than the battles.
yeah.
It's probably intended to be a constructed card or something.
Or just like a weird hoser, yeah, a constructing card or
But
just a
now you have
nice.
this weird uncommon that just like kind of really ruins one of the huge themes of your set. Like that's a mistake. They didn't do that on purpose.
No, because it's much more of a gotcha. Like, oh, it's old school Magic where it's like, oh, you didn't know the
Right.
rules,
You didn't know this weird interaction rule. Sucks
because
to
the
be.
card, yeah,
Because it
which,
doesn't feel like intuitively, it doesn't feel like you're casting the battle, you're flipping it.
mhm,
But for like technical rules reasons, they had it exile and cast.
yeah,
And so
the
it doesn't even feel like it's all just technicalities basically.
exactly. It's basically like a lot of people are guessing like, oh, this card was put into the file when battles used to just flip, but then at some point
Right.
down the line, they decided to make some battles flip into sorceries and instants so that you can't just flip them; they have to be cast. Um,
Gotcha. Yeah, that sounds pretty plausible.
yeah. So then they added cast to it and just forgot about this card, which is I think a pretty big miss. That kind of sucks. Um, but hey, take that information however you want to. So if that's like sweet, now I can try to trick people. You know what? Go for it. Like people have to learn somehow. I don't really know what else to tell you. But just this is mainly to say beware of Phyrexian Censor. It might
Yeah.
get you.
And then the I see, yeah. Like that just makes this card a little better than it already is, I think.
Mm-hmm.
Although I am super interested in drafting the white black Phyrexians archetype.
It's good.
Because
Yeah.
the card that caught my eye when I was drafting, but it was a little too late, had kind of solidified into blue. Like white was for sure my color the whole time, and then it's
Mm-hmm.
kind of solidified into blue. But I saw Sculpted Perfection, which is like the Lord enchantment. It's like a Lord, but it incubates or whatever. So it incubates two, and then Phyrexians get +1/+1.
Right. Right.
Like
Right.
this card just looks nuts in the black white deck. Like because it's a Lord that you can't get rid of as easily as most.
Mm-hmm.
Like normally it's a Lord, I just kill a creature. And creature, you should have plenty of ways to kill creatures in your deck.
Mm-hmm.
The fact that it's the enchantment is the Lord and the creature is like sure it costs you 2 mana or whatever, but this card seems very, very strong. So I'm
Yeah.
like, this deck looks real.
It does. There's actually an uncommon cycle of like enchantments that all do stuff with they like come down, do something with Phyrexians basically and incubate. And the one that's
Gotcha.
been most frustrating to me is the Phyrexian Awakening, which is the 3 mana white one that incubates for 4 and gives Phyrexians vigilance.
Hmm.
Has just happened to be the one where it's like I know it's just like it technically costs 5 mana over 2 turns to get a 4/4 on turn 4 with vigilance, but like
Mhm.
having a 4/4 with vigilance attack you just like gums up the board enough, at least with the decks that I was playing where I was trying to go lower to the ground. Like I just couldn't do anything like
I think
besides
the weird thing
waste
about
removal.
Incubate is that because they transform, they can attack as soon as you transform them. And that
Mhm.
always feels wrong to me. Every time somebody does it, I'm like, ah, that thing can attack right now.
Yeah,
Bullshit.
yeah, it's kind of strange. Yeah, but that's how it goes.
Yeah,
So
like it makes sense rules
mhm.
wise and stuff. And I guess like you are paying a premium for this creature, so the fact that it has haste maybe isn't the worst thing in the world. But it always just catches me a little by surprise, where I'm like, oh yeah, that thing can attack.
Yeah, and surprise block when you can,
Yeah, yeah.
all.
I also assume everything is only at sorcery speed these days because they make so
Mhm.
many things give that rider, but
This
not for
one
incubate.
is not. So it makes it even stronger. Um, and even also just like the random thing of like giving all Phyrexians vigilance, which is like all your creatures. So it's like Phyrexian Censor also has vigilance. Every other Phyrexian, anytime you transform one
Right,
of your
right.
random uncommons or commons into a Phyrexian, it has vigilance. It just ends up being better. It ends up being vigilance ends up being pretty strong in a format where convoke is one of the mechanics, where like you're just like
Yes.
attack with a bunch of stuff, and then I can still play spells and convoke and stuff. Um,
Yeah, so that was the other thing I was going to mention about why I thought playing knights felt busted, because I was constantly curving out on people, but then all my stuff has vigilance, and then all of my non-creature spells have convoke. So there were literally like turns where I was curving out 2 drop, 3 drop, 4 drop, and attacking with everything and holding up counter magic. It felt like or draw, like a
mhm.
added end step divination. I'm
Yeah,
just like this. This
that.
is stupid. This is really stupid.
So we talked about this in other formats where I don't love divination, just in
Mhm.
general, but it's because it's sorcery speed. First of all, okay, that's a big reason why I
Yeah,
don't like
this
divination.
is. I guess it's not divination because it's what's it called?
It's
Inspiration.
inspiration.
Yeah.
But the card is called Meeting of the Minds, and it's an inspiration, which is 3 and a blue for an instant, draw 2 cards. But it has convoke, so you just do it for free, or you do it for one,
Oh boy,
or
that card felt good.
it's very good. I think it's so strong. Like the convoke
Like,
deck is sweet.
yeah, I would so consistently like turn 4, play the knight 2/2 knight with vigilance that makes another 2/2 knight with vigilance, like attack, and then still play that card on there and stuff. Like
Yeah,
it felt a bit ridiculous
yeah,
that I was
because
like drawing cards and countering spells. Meanwhile, attack all every turn, and I have a huge board. Like, what is this deck? It
that's
was
just
like a constructed deck.
it's quite good. Um, Also because blue has like the preening champion, which is like the Windrake that gives you a 1/1 weird. That's also
Yeah,
a knight, just because. Um,
randomly.
yeah, it's it's just I don't know. I think that's the deck that I need to like lean into a little bit more. Like you were talking about incubate specifically, which I think is super strong. Um,
Hmm.
but me leaning into more of like the convoke strategies because in my mind, I don't know if everyone does like this shortcut, but it's like cards that have low casting costs look strong. Cards with high casting costs sometimes just look super weak, and
Yeah,
I just do that inherently. And there's like, what is this card that I like? Probably didn't really look at ever. With artistic refusal, which is like 4 blue for an instant.
man, that card slaps people.
Yeah,
Like
because it you
they're not
can
expecting it because you're tapped out, and
yeah,
it's
you're
just
tapped
like,
out. It has convoke and it says choose one or both, counter target spell or draw 2 cards, then discard a card. But you can do both, and you can
yeah,
maybe have, I don't know, a single whatever color. Doesn't matter because most of your creatures will be blue, I guess in this case. But like you just don't see that card coming. It's like,
it's the white knight that makes the token. It makes a blue token. It's blue and white.
oh
And
gosh.
so like those tokens that and then there's the strobe knight or whatever, where whenever you cast 2 spells in a turn, he makes more knights. So and he has vigilance naturally.
It's yeah,
Card's ridiculous.
it's so good.
Uh, the first
It's
time I cast the artistic spell, I didn't realize you could choose both until it
it
was
popped
on the
up.
screen in
Oh,
front of me, and
mhm,
I was like, oh, I think I'm going to do both. Like, I was thinking like, oh, I'll counter or whatever they play. If they don't play anything, I'll draw. Seems
mhm.
pretty good. And then they played something I wanted to counter, so I decided to counter. And then I'm about to hit OK. I'm like, wait a minute, can, can I choose both? This card is ridiculous.
Yeah,
How do you come
it's
back from getting your spell countered and then your opponent draws 2, discards 1? Like I know
uh,
it's net even on cards, but I'm at 6 mana. I'm obviously binning the
Yeah,
land, and like
exactly.
drawing gas. So
Well, no, you're not even on 6 mana though, because you don't have to be, because you can play it with the creatures that you
that's true.
have.
I mean, you probably are by the time you're
Close to it,
casting that card, but yeah,
but you
you're
could
not paying 6 mana for it.
no,
That's for sure.
no. So those types of cards, being able to be like, okay, no, this is really, these are good.
Yeah, I think Convoke feels like one of those, playing with it again,
Mhm.
because I love Convoke. And I'd love to see it in a color that's not green, because I
Yeah,
think it's just been
always been green
traditionally
white,
green.
like
Yeah,
Celestia was its colors. Yeah.
and it makes sense there, right? But it's just
Mhm.
fun to see it elsewhere.
I just think it's
The
so much.
thing that
Well, sorry, you can go ahead because I have
I was
something
just
else to
gonna
say.
say, like, you can tell it's an old mechanic, like it was designed a while ago, because I feel like if this was designed today, you wouldn't be able to pay the colored mana with it.
Hmm.
It would be like only the colorless, and then you do have to tap some lands.
Yeah.
And my mind like auto corrects that that's how it works. And then I'm
Hmm.
like, wait, no, I could cast this. Like,
Hmm.
this is so stupid. Okay, I could cast this. This is dumb.
Yeah.
Uh, but yeah, so for you players out there who haven't played with Convoke yet, it is very, very good, especially in limited where you want creatures anyways. Like that's
Hmm.
what you should be doing, is playing a lot of creatures. And the other thing about limited is free spells are very, very good, because basically the way you win in limited, or the way you get ahead, is play two spells in one turn, or one turn cycle.
Hmm.
Um, because that's generally hard to do in limited, and this makes it a lot easier. So I have a feeling that like the Convoke colors have a natural kind of leg up on the other colors in limited, because Convoke's just that good.
Yeah. I also think it's interesting to have it in like a spells matter archetype where I feel like Celestia Convoke stuff always feels like it's just like making creatures or like pumping creatures or just doing that kind of shenanigans, which is just like kind of compounding on itself and not the same as like, I don't know, tap down your stuff and put stun counters on it or kill your creature or draw a fuck ton of cards, stuff like that.
Right.
Where it's like, oh, this isn't just making more creatures or gaining life. Like this is just so much more interesting. Besides, um,
Yeah.
so I don't know. I can't even think of an example of what I was trying to explain, but it just feels not that it's really that much better, but I just kind of I feel like it fits better in this set. I like it. I'm very happy that it's not green white is what I'm really trying to say. I'm happy
Yeah.
that they decided to take it and put it into a different color so that we get to see it differently because we've already seen it twice in green white and I'm tired
In
of
the
it.
green white. Yeah.
Yeah.
And one of my criticisms of how they did it in the past was the way they tried to make decisions interesting is, like you said, Convoke was often, and they did a little bit of this set too, but Convoke was often, oh, put a +1/+1 counter on everything that convoked this.
Hmm.
Or, like you said, it was always combat based or power and toughness based. And so what they were saying was, hey, this is interesting, because if you convoke, you don't get to attack. And
Hmm.
this is a thing that makes you better in combat. The problem was they were so like they were dishing out so much vigilance that just didn't really matter. All my creatures have vigilance, so this just became an outrageous combat trick that is going to
Hmm.
give them all +1/+1, and I got to attack and I got to cast it for free because of Convoke. Whereas this time, the vigilance thing doesn't always feel. It still feels a little, powerful, but it's not the same. Like, oh, this just broke my whole decision, because the spells aren't always combat based this time.
Hmm.
Um, so it feels a lot more like, rather than tension that the vigilance is just getting around, this feels like synergy. The
Hmm.
point is I attack with vigilance and then hold up this other spell.
Yeah.
Not like the point was I should have to decide, but haha, I don't have to because of vigilance.
Yeah. Like the one key element is like, do I play this or attack? Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's cool. You know, honestly, I mean, I know free spells are like an issue or whatever, but they feel so inherently magic, you know?
Yeah.
Like when you think of like classic magic card, like Force of Will is like top of the list for me of just like playing stuff for free or being able to do things, get around mana costs and stuff. It's so magic that
Right. And Convoke, it really does a good job of, like, Convoke is not busted.
no,
It's
no, no,
very,
no,
very strong, especially in limited, but in constructed, it's not busted because it's free, quote unquote, but it does require something pretty substantial of you,
no. Hmm.
which is to have to have a big battlefield or a big board. Um, so it's not like Force of Will, which requires you to have at least one life.
Two cards in hand. Yeah.
Yeah, and at
Both of
least two
which,
cards
yeah.
in hand.
One of which is Force of Will and the
um,
other is blue. Yeah.
right. Where to the point where people are literally just putting cards in their deck because they are blue.
Because they are
Uh,
blue. It's like, well, it pitches to Forcible, so that makes it so much better. Yeah.
uh, like, what's the best Convoke spell in Construct? It's probably like Court of Calling,
Court of Calling.
which I love, and I love Court of Calling. But no one will say. I don't think anyone would claim Court of Calling is busted. It doesn't even really see much play.
No.
It's just a really well designed and fun card. So the Convoke is just getting free, quote unquote, free spells. It's
Hmm.
getting it right because it feels like you're cheating when you're doing it, but it's not so busted that it ruins the game.
Yeah. I agree. Um yeah. I think I I wanted to come out of this and be like, I am energized to play some more March of the Machine and feel differently about it. But at the same time, I think I just need a little bit. I feel like I need a moment away from it. So honestly, for the first time in a very long time, have I started to look towards standard and be like, maybe I should just be playing standard, and I'm not as interested in playing as much draft as possible because you know people have been saying it feels really bomby and there's a bunch of things like that, which it does feel very powerful. I don't know if I feel as much like, oh, you just happen to open a bomb and that's the game, because there's so many goddamn rares and legendaries all over the place that like everybody
Right.
has them. So it doesn't feel as like, oh, well, you just happen to open that, so that just happens. Like Crimson Vow, it kind of feels like,
Yeah.
yeah, I also have some busted stuff. I just didn't draw it this game. Um, which,
Yeah. I think that's an important distinction in, everyone just says Prince or Pauper or whatever. And it's like, okay, it's a Prince format. But there are Prince formats where it's like you said, there are just some cards that are so good that they can
mm,
never be beaten. Sort of like your um trying to think of the most recent one.
I was thinking in Crimson Vow, there's that one green creature that has hexproof and then flips and gives all your creatures hexproof and puts counters on everything every turn.
Right,
That was just
yeah.
like,
I
this
was
is,
thinking I was going like old school to like Tetsamok and but there were just some cards that you basically can't beat. Maybe if we're going old school, you could do Umazawa's Jite.
sure. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
You can never beat that card at limited. And so if it has a few of those, that's one thing. This set feels like every deck is going to have two or three game-winning, like game-turning bombs, and it's a little more who draws their bombs kind of thing
Hmm.
at the right time, and who has
Manage.
prepared for bombs by like putting enough removal and holding it.
Yes.
So that's my other tip. I've only played one draft, but one thing I'm going to be doing going forward, because I actually made this mistake in a couple of games, I'm going to be really, really strict with my removal.
Hmm.
It has to demand the removal spell to earn it, because there's some good removal in this format, but there's a lot of really great creatures. So you have to kind of suppress the natural instinct that anyone who's been playing for a while has, where you're a little ahead, your opponent plays something, and you're just most mana efficient plays to remove that blocker and just really get in there. I think this is not the set for that because
Yes.
your opponent's going to be able to stabilize with one of their huge, like, game turning threats, and then you're going to wish you had that like all powerful removal spell that you just blew on
Yeah.
like a 3/4.
This is my number one issue with this format is that I love making mana efficient plays to be more
Mhm.
aggressive, and I've been punished over and over and over and over again, and I will not
Yeah.
learn because I don't want to. But
Yeah, I
yes,
made that mistake, but got like luckily bailed out by my deck, and then I was like, mental note, don't do that again.
yeah. Um,
You can work around a 3/4, you know?
mhm.
You can't work around a 4/4 flying first strike vigilance that gives
Lifelink.
something else that
Yeah.
lifelink, yeah.
Mhm.
Um,
Those,
so
yeah. So definitely look out for that stuff. Um, I also will say there are some really interesting things that go on with some of the like legendary like Legends of the Multiverse cards. And one of them that I think is really, really interesting and an include that I was like, ooh, spicy. Like I like that. Is Teysa, the one from Guilds of Ravnica or the
mhm.
Ravnica Allegiance, because the main thing that everyone cared about is like it's a 4 mana white and black 2/4 that doubles death triggers. But the
Mm.
other line of text is that it gives all tokens lifelink and vigilance. So it makes all of your
Didn't even
incubate
remember that it
tokens,
did that. But
right?
yeah,
But it makes all of your incubate tokens have vigilance and lifelink in the colors of incubate, which is just so cool.
that's
And
pretty cool.
I remember opening that card and being like, that's this fucking card is so useless. And then I read it, I was like, wait, that's really
Hmm.
smart. What a cool, fun, everyone reads like that card was huge when it came out. Everyone, at least Commander players, were so excited about like a double deaths trigger deck. And the other part was kind of just like, oh, and then something with
I was pretty
tokens.
excited about it. But
Yeah. But like, I like them finding cards that are like, there are 2 lines of text. The main line that seems the most exciting is useless, and the second line that seems useless is the most important. That
right.
seemed
It's really
exciting.
nice when they do that. Like
Yeah.
the line of text this card's famous for is pretty much garbage here.
Hmm.
Like might trigger once randomly on something.
Yeah.
Uh, but then the line of text that everybody forgets is on this card super matters.
Super matters. So cool. So I'm excited to see more decks that are really looking for some of those cards because they do wheel quite a bit because they can be niche-ish. Some of the legends of the multiverse, you're just like,
Yeah,
some of them are just good, but some of them are kind of like, this is, it doesn't fit my deck at all. It's just, it's not great. So I think
yeah.
they do
I've
actually
been
play a
pretty
bigger part in the draft format than in other sets, which is kind of weird, but um, it's it's a little weird because you sometimes die to these other cards that aren't even in the set. But I do like the bonus sheet still. I think I'm very pro bonus sheet.
yeah. I've been enjoying it too. I have a kind of funny experience with it. I think it was my second last match or third last, whatever. That doesn't matter at all to the story. My
Yeah.
opponent played Thalia on turn
Yeah.
two.
Oh
And
yeah.
by the way, the new like the Thalia art I think is really gorgeous in this.
Hmm.
I know there's like a million versions of Thalia now,
Yeah.
um, but I really liked this one so much so that like I almost roped because I was just looking at it. I
Hmm.
was like, oh, I guess I got to play a card. Um, anyways, the Thalia was very easy for my Knight's deck to fight through. I played the 3/1 that's always going to have first strike, played the flyer on turn 3, played the tapper, the
Hmm.
like freezer on turn 4. Um,
I love that
but
freezer. I love just
yeah,
calling a creature a freezer because
Mr.
it
Freeze.
just seems like it's
Yeah.
a big like
It's a
freezer in your
big, yeah,
garage.
one of those chest freezers you
Yeah.
keep in your basement.
Yeah, that's you just throw somebody in there and close it for a
Thalia.
turn.
Oh.
Yeah.
um, so the Thalia didn't really factor into combat at all,
Hmm.
just the way my hand lined up. Uh, But eventually, we're in this situation where I have a lethal threat that's flying, and my opponent sits there and tanks for a really long time, and then attacks with their Thalia, and I have like 3/3s and 4/4s and stuff. Like they're attacking with a 2/1, right? And I'm sitting there like, oh, so someone has a removal spell that they can't cast, huh? Someone's
Hmm.
trying to get the Thalia off the board.
Oh.
No blocks. And then they as soon as I hit no blocks, they concede. Because I had
Oh,
like the lethal flyer. So it was like
yeah.
you definitely were one shy of a removal spell that you couldn't cast because of the random Thalia you put in the deck.
That's
And
so
you
funny.
last ditch effort, like maybe he'll block.
Yeah, that's so funny.
Yeah.
The suicide Thalia.
Yeah.
That's what you like. Do you try the like you have the one creature you're trying to like get into combat, and you like just quickly attack, and then you just go oops, 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 oops,
Yeah.
and
I
see if
mean,
they,
if my opponent had thrown a few more oopses my way, I may have blocked it. But
yeah,
it was
just
also at like I was at 16 or something.
yeah. So you're like, what's the point? Um, no, that is funny. So anyway, I
But
am.
I liked them playing to their outs.
Yeah. See,
Maybe they'll block.
maybe they'll block.
Yeah.
You got to at least try, right? So, but in any case, Jeff, I think we should get to our worthless slots. But before that, we need to go on a beer break. So let's finish these and get going. Get gone.
Let's do it.
Cheers. This beer break is brought to you by our patrons over on Patreon.
That's right. You're already supporting the show just by being a listener. But if you want to support the show even more, well, Patreon is the best way to do that. Plus, you get to vote on your favorite co host by buying me a beer.
Or buying me a beer. So go to patreon.com/arena regulars to vote on your favorite host.
Or if you'd rather send us beer emojis rather than IRL beers, you can do that too. You should do that on our Discord channel. The link should be in the show notes.
That is right. But Jeff, I got another beer for us. Something with a weird label, normal looking beer, but like kind of wacky. This is Nickelbrook's Winter Wizard right here. We also have a nice picture of the wizard here. He's got his orb with hops in the orb, which is
I
quite
feel like
nice.
this could be like a alternate art magic card.
It does look super cool. Oh, sick. Wait, Secret Layer beer labels?
Huh?
Oh, fuck, that's so cool.
They'd have
Man,
me. They'd have me.
I would buy
Be the
that one.
only secret layer I ever buy.
Only one.
Well,
Anyway,
on that one.
so Winter Wizard is a magical IPA. It's 6.2%. They have some nice notes on the back though, which is always good. I love, this little chart here is much more helpful than some kind of random. Well, to be fair, this one does give us some random shit. It says like the taste profile is magical, juicy, and winter spirit, which juicy is the only one that actually makes any sense with that. But
What a
it's not.
waste of space.
Yeah, but like saying what malts and hops and yeast they use is quite nice. Though I think they may have decided that the beer is called Winter Wizard because they say the pour color is Hop Blizzard. So
Yeah, I feel like they've just gone 50-50 here on
mhm.
meaningful, and like they couldn't decide whether they wanted it to be informative
Or a
or
joke,
like
yeah,
dorky.
yeah. Uh,
And they did both,
they did
which I
both.
definitely appreciate.
I do as well. So Nickelbrook. I'm not always on their excited about their beers, but this is one that
Mhm.
looked more interesting than
As somebody who brews beers themselves and uh, like is often trying to recreate beers that they like, I do love the brewer's elements thing.
mhm,
Like they don't tell you a recipe. Oh, it's 70% Pilsner malts, 10%
mhm.
wheat malt, 20% rolled oats. They just say those are the three things. Um, and the grain bill is probably pretty similar to what I just said because those are the percentages you tend to use those things in.
Mhm.
But you know, they could. I feel like I like a brewery that's confident enough to tell you exactly what's Probably if you called them up and asked them, they'd tell you how to make it.
Yeah, because so this is something we don't talk about on the show a lot. We try not to talk too much about specific beer things. I don't know,
Mhm,
but now that we're talking about it, the hops they're using are Sabro, Mosaic, and Walmay, and the yeast is Vermont Ale, which
mhm.
these are all just things that completely change all of the beers and like could be little subtle hints in the names that you see in beers, and then you realize, oh, it's because they use that specific yeast and that's why they call it that or whatever. um
Right. And if they have this on every beer, then you, as like a consumer, can start to learn what you like and what you don't like.
exactly.
Um, and like I already know, for example, that every beer that has like certain strands of hops are things I'm gonna feel a bit weird about.
Hmm.
Um, so when I like these, I actually don't know Wame that well.
Oh, is that an I?
Why
I thought that was an
Waimea?
I thought it was an L. My bad.
I
Well,
don't know how to
that
pronounce this. It's Waimea. But I know Sabro and Mosaic,
yes,
and
I'm familiar
Mosaic
with
is
those.
great. Uh,
Yes.
so yeah, it's
Anyway,
just helpful to know that going in, what should I buy this or not?
yeah, there may be. I'm just laughing because there may be a reason we don't talk too much about like specific things about beer because
Yeah,
I
yeah, everyone's
mince.
already tuned out. So.
Well, not just that they tuned out, but I completely mispronounce a word that I don't understand, and
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah.
just
That's why we don't
classic.
do it.
Yeah, because I don't know how to
Zach's
read.
like citre.
Citre, Winter, Wizard. Yes.
Yeah.
Anyway, let's crack this open and let's get to talk about magic so people can stop
Yep.
listening to me. All right. Or start listening to me about something else that I know a little bit more about. Um, so we're going into our Worth a Slot segment. It's our world famous one, Worth a Slots.
Yes.
You know it. You love it. You come here for it. I know you do.
Still here by popular demand.
Yeah, that's right. People tell us, hey, don't get rid of that. Um, so these are cards that we believe that you should be playing in standard. Jeff, do you want to explain our rating system for our worth of slots?
Yes. So we have a sports themed rating system. Um,
Sorry, it's stuff's funny. I love it.
so we basically have three cards. The first that we'll pick, the first is a layup. This is a card that we think sort of obviously is going to make an impact on. We generally are talking about standard because it's the main format on Arena. But sometimes we allow ourselves to venture into, say, Historic or Explorer if we have particular reason to. Um, so layup is the card that's obviously going to impact standard generally. 3-pointer would be a card that this is a powerful card. It could make it, but hey, maybe there's not the deck just doesn't materialize for this. Or maybe it waits around for a year and then ends up getting played, kind of thing. And half court, these are the cards that is, we could also call this like wishful thinking. These are the cards that we just kind of want to be good, but we kind of know that they're not actually really going to be played. And then to tack that on, usually we do overrated, underrated. So one card we think the community is overrating, one card we think the community is underrating, but uh, we might do that a little differently this time.
Yeah, this set was hard. In general, this set was hard. I think that's just my
Yeah,
motto for all of it. So we usually start with our layups. Uh, Jeff, do you want to start with
sure.
yours? Because I'm having a hard time this set. I wrote them down. This is what happened. I wrote them down like 2 weeks ago when the cards came out,
Yeah.
and then as I've been getting closer and closer, I've been like trying to rethink them, and now I feel like I'm completely lost and I don't know what's happening. So, uh,
So I'm feeling okay about my layup. I think it's a good choice, and
mhm.
I'll explain a little further after I reveal the card, obviously.
Okay.
Um, but little little spoiler. This might, I think, pretty sure this is the first time that a layup has ever been a card that is not rare or mythic rare.
Okay.
This card is an uncommon.
Hmm.
And the card that I've selected as my layup is Stoke the Flames. So for those who do not remember Stoke the Flames, because this is a reprint,
Hmm.
it's 2 red for an instant, deals 4 damage to any target, and it has Convoke.
Okay.
This card is fairly innocuous looking. Like you'll read this, you'll be like, yes, I get it. This card is insanely good. This was basically made mono red a thing when it was
Hmm.
first printed. The fact that you could just play all these creatures and then basically dump your hand on the last turn and get damage through without your creatures usually are stonewalled by that point.
Hmm.
It's so flexible, does to any target. Like you can routinely in previous standard would cast this for 0, 1, 2, 3, or 4. Like that would, all of
Hmm.
those were just things that happened. You'd pointed at creatures, you'd pointed at face, you'd pointed at planeswalkers. Now you can point it at battles. This thing is just, it just reads so simple, but these two abilities together, like this is just very good. And mono red has kind of been sort of tier 2-ish, but like
Peaking up.
almost
Yeah.
there. This might be what the deck needed. This card
Yeah.
is just that good. Um, I'm pretty confident that mono red will instantly adopt this in probably 4 copies,
Hmm.
and it might be enough to push it into tier 1. So I think you will play against this card.
Okay. I love that pick, and it makes me feel so much better about my original pick. I just want to tell you my train of thought was that I was going to pivot over from what I originally wanted to pick to the card Pylon, which is very similar to what you picked, which is a black rare with Convoke that destroys a creature of Planeswalker and surveils to, but it has Convoke. Um, so I'm not going to actually pick that card because that's one I was going to pivot to, but I like that better because it goes perfectly with my original layup, which
Okay.
my original layup, I picked Bloodfeather Phoenix, which
Yeah.
is 1 in a red for a 2/2 Phoenix with flying, and it can't block. So a classic like mono red card, and as a Phoenix does, it will always come back from your graveyard. So it says whenever an instant or sorcery spell you control deals damage to an opponent or battle, you may pay 1 red mana. If you do, return Bloodfeather Phoenix from your graveyard to the battlefield. It gains haste until that turn. So kind of in the situation that you're talking about. Um, I also agree that this set has pushed mono red a little bit, just giving it a bit of a bump up. And having a 2-drop, the one thing that knocks Bloodfeather Phoenix and what was making me not want to pick this card was because it doesn't have haste itself,
Doesn't have
like
haste. Yeah.
off the bat, and every other card in the mono red deck has haste. Um, but
This card is so good though,
this card
especially
is,
if you're going to play a bunch of Stoke the Flames.
yeah.
I was thinking about this card as well. Actually, my only reservation about Stoke the Flames was that it was a reprint. It's like,
Hmm.
should I be choosing a reprint? Um,
But
but I
still,
feel like it's old enough. We're talking like
yeah.
a core set that I think was around Cons
25th
of Tarkir time.
2015, it was like, yeah, it was a long time
Yeah.
ago.
Um, yeah, this card's just imagine the reach that Mono Red now has. They have a bunch of creatures, right? They can now play a big creature, then play Stoke the Flames to deal 4 to your face, and then bring back Bloodfeather Phoenix and attack you. It's like 6 damage and committing to their board.
Hmm.
Mono Red normally isn't able to do that kind of stuff, but the fact that this essentially costs 1 and Stoke the Flames costs anywhere from 0 to 4, whatever's most convenient for you. Um, really just give it that. I can do 3 or 4 things in a turn in the late game, and
Hmm.
that's like its form of reach. Uh, I think Mono Red's going to be
Yeah.
quite a deck.
Especially because you still have Play with Fire, which wants to hit their face, and Lightning Strike, which is also
Yeah,
just
yeah,
great. So adding, I think what the deck needed was Stoke the Flames and maybe another flying threat because all their other hasty 2-drops got traded with like a Blood Tithe Harvester, basically like all the time.
And you know what? This card may not have haste, but you know what it can do the turn it's cast? Tap for Stoke the Flames.
That's true. Though, do you want to cast this and then also like basically essentially lose a mana by playing this card to
So
tap it?
you have another one.
Yeah, you figure it out.
Assuming
Anyway,
this isn't going to die.
I love that we're both in on mono red because after playing some limited of this format, I want to just blazingly destroy people. That's what I crave. And so I'm turning into like a mono red player in standard, I think, right now.
I wouldn't advise mono red in this limited format, actually.
Don't. No. I'm talking about when I leave the draft and get mad, I go play standard and want to play it.
That's it. I want to win in 3 minutes.
Yeah.
Let's go.
Boom.
Yeah,
right.
I feel like mono red story's been coming together for years here, and it finally feels like it's there or close, which is kind of cool because they've been giving us stuff here and there.
A little just nibbles. There's another really cool card in this set that we didn't talk about that seems like it could easily go into that deck as well, which I like. But all right, Jeff, we are moving into our 3-pointers. And I feel more confident now that I can just like stick with the 3-pointers that I have and just like, just, all
How
that
many
stress.
do you have?
I had a few. They moved around. It's fine. But this is a card that we haven't talked about yet, and I'm excited to talk about. And I think it will slot into standard. It just like has it's a little funky the way that it fits into the deck. So it perfectly slides into the standard deck, except for the fact that it has maybe a little different game plan. But
okay,
that's why it doesn't like hit a layup. Like you could try using this card. I don't even know if it's like perfect for it, but we'll see. But the card is Rona, Herald of Invasion, which is 1 and a blue for a 1/3 legendary creature human wizard. And it says whenever you cast a legendary spell, untap Rona, Herald of Invasion. You can tap it to draw a card, then discard a card, so you loot. And then you can also pay 5 and a Phyrexian black to transform it as a sorcery into Rona, Tolarian Obliterator, which is a 5/5 legendary creature Phyrexian wizard with trample. And it says whenever a source deals damage to Rona, that source's controller exiles a card from their graveyard at random. If it's a land card, you may put it onto the battlefield under your control. Otherwise, you may cast it without paying its mana cost. So
just want to say, I think you said exiles a card from their graveyard at random.
Sorry.
Actually, their hand.
It's their hand. My apologies. Better. Yes, it is much better. It is hand. My I think it's so easy. It just rolls off the tongue of the graveyard.
Yeah.
Anyway, thank you for catching that. But yes, so this card obviously goes into Esper Legends, which is a good deck in standard right now. And they kind of wanted another 2-drop because a lot of lists were playing some soldiers that were just kind of there to attack. Because so this is the reason it's the 3-pointers, because the main point of the deck is like to turn 1 Skrelv, turn 2 Thalia, turn 3 you play the Sphinx. What the hell is that card's name? The reason you play the deck.
Yeah.
The connives. Raffine. Yeah.
Scheming.
Yeah. So you play Raffine, you attack with your Thalia, you connive, you can either get a counter or not, blah, 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 blah. But having this card being able to dig through your deck, I think is great. And I like being able to tap it before you play Raffine, untap it, attack with it, connive, and so you get to look at even more cards. Discard something that you do want to give it a counter or not. And then in the late game, you can flip it into a threat that gets to play cards for free. It seems good. I know it's not, this card doesn't specifically attack well, which is the reason I think it isn't perfect, but it reads like it's supposed to go in the deck.
Yeah.
So I think it's really interesting, but I understand that it's not, most of the time Raffine decks want a 2-drop that wants to attack and be a good attacker. And this one, I don't know. Attacking with the 2/4, is that exciting? It doesn't have any abilities. I know it's a 1/3, but I'm assuming that you can dive into a 2/4. But
Yeah, I'm just imagining this with the stupid alchemy Esper thing.
yeah,
So it's like I tap this,
put a counter on it.
I
Yeah.
loot, and then I play that thing, and then I
Hmm.
tap this, I tap it again, and now when I discard, I
A
get a
card for
card back or
free. Yeah.
whatever. Like this sounds so dumb.
Hmm.
But yeah, in standard, I like this pick a lot. I think also there's other interesting things that are kind of going on in standard where this could be reasonable. You know, there's some reanimator shenanigans going on. Looters are good at reanimator.
Hmm.
Um, and honestly, like there was a time not so in the not so distant past that a 2 mana 1/3 looter is a totally solid card that you would play.
Hmm.
Um, Probably we're in a time of Magic where that's not true anymore, but this has a lot of upside over just being a 2 mana 1/3 looter. Like the whole transforming and untapping thing, like this is just a powerful card.
Hmm.
Looting is very, very good. So
Yes.
you normally don't get free looting on 2 drops anymore.
Hmm.
That's not a thing they tend to do, but they did it. So yeah, I'm definitely
Yeah.
interested in this card.
Especially ones that untap. I love that it untaps. Um,
Yeah,
because a lot of times you want to loot on your opponent's turn before your turn so that you still have your blocker. But this one's
yeah,
like loot before you play your legend. See if you get hit your land drop or not. That kind of stuff.
for
Uh,
sure. Um, and you're talking about like building around that. I think you're probably pretty happy just playing this in certain decks
and
that
just
have a
looting.
few legends. Like
Yeah,
you don't have to be all in on legends, you just happen to be playing a few.
totally.
Um,
I guess
like your Grixis deck with a shield written in it or whatever.
that's true.
Um, it might be good enough to see that kind of play.
Hmm.
But obviously, the dream is like everything I play is a legend, and I'm just looting like
Yeah,
crazy.
I guess the only reason I was thinking specifically that deck is because it's actually a deck in standard that people do play. So it's
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
yeah,
Oh no, for sure, it
let's
makes
do that.
sense.
Um, but I do
I
like
like it.
it. You can also go in like any planeswalker deck, all the Esper planeswalker decks, because it is block. So
Yeah, not to mention like one of the problems with like one of the interesting things about this card is that one of the reasons looters are good, or a 1/3 looter is presumably good, is it comes down early, but then it's relevant late because it helps you filter your draws.
that's true.
Um, but then you have to make the decision like what's better for me in the late game, changing this into a 5/5 trample, or continuing to sculpt my hand
Hmm.
when I'm like low on cards. So I think there's an interesting decision that this card implies in the late game. Like, how do I want this card to? Because once you turn it into a 5/5,
It
you
just
don't get to
is.
loot anymore,
Yeah,
and your opponent's hand is probably nothing. So
hmm,
the ability may not be super relevant,
that's
but
true.
it's a 5/5 trampler. So I think there's going to be some times when you want to transform this, and sometimes when you just want to keep on looting.
That's that's true. Which is what's better about it. So
Yeah,
anyway,
to be fair, that so just so everyone's clear, that's a upside. When you get to choose which
mhm,
side of the card you want, that's bonus. That makes it better.
yeah. Instead of being like it's only good if you flip it.
Yeah,
Anyway, I think that would be quite nice and might get there. But Jeff,
I
do you have a
like
three?
it.
Do you have a 3-pointer for us?
Okay, I do.
Hmm.
Now I'm curious about your thoughts on this card because I read this card and I thought it was busted.
Okay.
Well, that might be a bit strong, but I thought it was very, very good.
Okay.
And I've seen literally zero talk about it anywhere.
Hmm.
So I'm wondering now, I'm like second guessing myself. But that's why I got moved into the 3-point
Gotcha.
category.
For sure. For sure.
And continuing on my newfound love of cards that are not rare or mythic rare,
Hmm.
this card is also an uncommon,
All
much
right.
like my layup. And this card is called Scornblade Berserker. So this is a 1 mana 0/1. It is a human berserker.
Mm-hmm.
It has backup 1, and it has 1 and sacrifice this creature, draw a card.
Yes.
So
So
to me,
yeah, go ahead.
this is Elvish Visionary with a ton of upside.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Like it's your 2 mana creature that draws a card, but it can be so much more than that. First of all, it can just be a 1 mana play that's 1/2,
Mm-hmm.
and you can start getting in there if you really want. But mostly converts your other creatures, gives them a powerful sacrifice ability when they're no longer relevant. Tokens, like anything pretty much in the late game. And it has haste, like the 1 damage has haste. When Elvish Visionary comes down, it's just a 1/1. The body usually only matters if you're playing like an elf deck or you
Mm-hmm.
get to chump block or something. This puts that power somewhere a little more meaningful. And also, you can draw 2 cards off this because you back up something, you sack it, and then this still has that ability.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know. This card is right up my alley. This
Mm-hmm.
card seems like the nuts to me. It's
I
everything I ever wanted in a black 1 drop.
yeah, which is I did see some discourse about this card. Um,
Oh, okay. I'm
so,
interested in that.
but I think it's very similar to what you have presented right now. Um,
Yeah, I think the comparison to Elvish Visionary is the natural thing to do, right? Like it's
yes,
2 mana, draw a card, small creature,
yeah.
don't care so much about the body.
I will say that it to me, I didn't think of it as Elvish Visionary immediately, just because like you don't get to keep the creatures. So then I was like, in the situation
Yeah.
where this is the
It
only card.
depends why you're playing Elvish, like in an Elves deck. This
Yes,
isn't Elvish Visionary.
yeah. But I think that it's a good comparison that I overlooked because of thinking that that was more important than it really is. For me specifically, this card doesn't speak to me. um,
What?
but
It's a
I
one
can.
drop. You use. I remember
Okay,
somebody saying that cards that are cheap look
it's
better
true.
than
It's
cards that
true.
are expensive.
But this is also a card that has 0 power. I know that it sometimes has
That's
1,
yeah.
but I
It
like
has
my one
1 power if
drops,
you want it to, Zach.
but I really like 1 drops that have 2 power.
Okay. This should have been backup 2. You're right. Let's call it.
Yeah, hey. But no, I think this is exactly the kind of thing that's like up your alley and
I love this card.
works super well with what you want to do, especially if you want to be able to like give your other creatures this sack ability. Um,
This was such a
and
nice diamond in the rough find for me while I'm looking through the set, and I just like spot this one. I'm like, wait,
yeah,
holy shit! What does that card do?
it also
I
seems
love
like
it.
an interesting card. Like if you're playing it with Tyvar and you're going to bring it back because you sacked to draw a card to find your
Oh, you
Tyvar,
know I am.
it comes
You
back
know
and
I'm playing
gives
it with Tyvar.
yeah, it gives a plus 1/+1 counter to something else. Then you can sack it again to draw another card, and so that engine is so cheap that it seems really exciting and fun. So it is definitely a card where I'm excited for you to show me the best shell that it can be in. I am not interested in finding it myself. I'm excited for you to do it for me. I think that's what how I feel about it.
It might not be me though. It might be the Hive Mind,
Hmm.
and it's just a tier 1 deck with this card.
The hive mind. Are you talking about others? I think that
Yeah, the Hive Mind, like
so.
the internet, I
Yeah,
guess.
yeah. I guess when I said I saw discourse about it, I think I should be more specific. I saw exactly one person talk about it, and that person was getting berated and attacked by several other people saying that they were so
Okay,
wrong. So that's what I
I
saw about
see.
it. Yeah. So it's
Yeah,
definite.
that does clarify things.
Yes, it was not like, "Oh, this card is great." It was like, hey, this is like Elvish Visionary, and a bunch of people being like, fuck you, no, it's not. This card sucks. Well,
Sounds like Twitter.
Yeah. So that was the discourse I saw. It was not. So I think you're still clear to be the first one to be like, this card's amazing, and people will believe you.
Nice.
So
Okay, good.
yeah, so you're good.
Yeah.
You're in the clear.
I think people might realize though. They might figure it out.
Hmm. All right, Jeff. Do you want to go first with your half court shot? The Are you going to pick a rare or mythic? Maybe, maybe just maybe. Are you super budget this round?
I so I have options for both.
Okay.
I think it could be kind of fun to just keep it uncommon.
I love it. I love it.
Okay. So this is a card that is a limited signpost uncommon. And when
Okay.
I read it as I was drafting, I was like, is this constructed playable? I don't know. So it felt like the perfect thing to put as the half court shot.
Mhm.
Because like I could see a world where this is a real thing. And the card is Elvish Vat Keeper. So this is one black green for a 3/3.
Mhm.
On ETB, incubate 2. And then you can pay 5 to transform an incubator you control and double its +1/+1 counters. So that ability is there, but
Mhm.
mostly if you're thinking constructed, this is a 3/3 plus a 2/2, a promise of a 2/2.
Mhm.
I don't think it's that far off constructed playability for 3 mana. And if like there's like a black green Phyrexian or black green deck, incubator deck, this could be a reason why. Maybe Sultai with Tezzeret to transform that thing for free, and then this becomes a 3/3 plus 2/2 for 3 with extra activated ability. Not bad.
Mhm.
I think it's a little tight because in limited this card's amazing because you're already interested in the 3/3 for 3.
Yeah.
In constructed, you're not already interested in the 3/3 for 3. It has to do a lot more than that. And this does a little more than that. And if you build around it, it can do a lot more than that. So super dependent on whether the shell is really there. But I'm coming in pretty optimistic on Incubate. I think even just playing one draft with it, I'm like, this is a better mechanic than I thought when I read what it does.
Mhm.
And they've really pushed it. A lot of the cards are very, very good that have
Yeah.
Incubate. So if there's like an Incubate deck, I could see people playing this.
Mhm. I wonder how important incubate tokens are going to be just for fighting against things like um, the 6 mana Wandering Emperor that
Right.
wipes boards or even board wipes in general. We got a really good one this set. Um, things like that.
Right.
Where you're like,
Because what you're saying is the incubate tokens aren't creatures, so they don't get
mhm,
wiped, and then you activate them and they attack down
exactly.
Elspeth right away.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Because Planeswalker decks love to have the battlefield clear, only have their creatures, things like that. So being able to keep creatures like incubated until you're
Yeah.
ready to attack with a bunch of them, and do an all-out strike could be something that it sees play. Um, and
And it's one of those things that's like there's a lot more skill to it than you might expect from
mhm,
just a creature token. Like creature tokens don't usually have this much play to
play.
them. So
It's actually, so this is important. I don't know why I just thought about this, but there has been a change in the rules text of creature tokens because of Incubate. So originally, creature tokens can't transform, right?
mm.
So if you make a token copy of something that transforms, it can't transform because tokens don't transform. This has now changed that rule so that if you make a
Oh,
token copy of a card, it is a uh, it will transform the same way that other things do. However, clone effects won't still transform.
yeah.
So
Yeah.
only tokens are now allowed to, because this is the first token that transforms in the history of Magic. So
And
it
it
has
will transform the same way as the card it copies.
correct. So so if you create a token, oh my god, if you create a token copy of like a werewolf, for example, Graveyard Trespasser, it will transform. Uh, any of your other examples
But
will
of course,
work as well.
we still can't copy like Jace Vryn's Prodigy, right? because I think that exiles and comes back.
Yes, correct. And if you exile a token, then it won't. So it only works with transform cards, not cards that
Right.
exile and come back. Um, so that's just a random thing that was in like a weird like rules change in a wizard article. So if you didn't know that, it's very corner case. But if you're looking for bizarro things to do, that's now legal where before it was illegal. So um, nice, I love it. Very excited for that. Um, my You know what? I don't know if I have a soft spot for these stupid cards, or it's just like the weirdo in me. But this half court shot is so bad. It's so bad. Um, but I'm gonna do it anyway because it was one of the things I thought about, and we talked about a card that's similar to it tonight. So I thought maybe I should just keep it. It's definitely not that card, but whenever I read a card that says things like this, it makes me think of the card we talked about. And I think you know what card that is. Maybe. I don't know. But I'm going to pick a battle. And my battle is Invasion of Ikoria, which is
Oh,
X.
okay.
It's X green green for a 6 defense battle siege at rare. And it says when Invasion of Ikoria enters the battlefield, search your library and or graveyard for a non-human creature card with mana value X or less. Put it onto the battlefield. If you search your library this way, shuffle. So this gets 1 or 2 cards that are non-humans onto the battlefield for X or less, which is exciting. And the card I'm talking about is Court of Calling.
Yeah, I was about to say,
Yeah.
just for the folks listening, huh? Court of Calling. This is
Yeah.
not.
It's not. It's not instant speed, and you can't tap your creatures to pay for it. Though I do think that we haven't had green cards in standard for a while. Really, really. Like not Jund, because that's being propped up by Rakdos, and Rakdos props up a lot of different colors. Green. So this fits into the stupid mono green deck that they're trying to pan to us through this set, but I am on board for trying. But having a way to tutor up the pieces that you want, either this goes into that deck or it goes into some stupid combo deck, but I really doubt that. But being able to find both those pieces or whatever you want, like 5 mana, find your great 3 mana play, which is what's his name, Pelucranos, or you're finding anything else. I don't know what the different pieces are, but tutoring up and coming into the battlefield, those cards that you want plus something that went into the graveyard, sweet. It does flip into something. That's not necessarily what I'm excited about, because I don't think that standard's going to be about battles. Or at least not.
I think the battles that are good are going to be like cheap and with low defense counters.
Yeah.
So it's like send a creature there and flip it.
Mhm.
This is like commit your board, commit your
Yeah,
attack to
'cause
flip it.
6 is a lot. It does transform into an 8/8 with reach. It is
That makes all your creatures deal combat damage directly. Like it's
yeah. Zilortha, Apex of Ikoria. And so each of your non-human creatures can assign their damage to your opponent. So it basically makes lethal attacks lethal for sure. One of the most confusing texts ever, honestly, like for new players. All right, so I'm actually going to read this out because this is important. So it just says you may have those creatures assign its combat damage as though it weren't blocked. Just if you're new, that means that it does not assign damage to the creature that blocked it. It can still be blocked, but you can choose to assign the damage to your opponent. It does like super trample.
So this is the classic Thorn Elemental, right? Like
yes.
As a kid, I didn't really understand Thorn Elemental, and the part that we misplayed it was we thought it was unblockable. We thought it was just like a confusing magic way to say unblockable.
Yes.
It's not true. You can block it, so you can
Kill it.
stack up eight. You
Mhm.
can stack up 8 power worth of blockers on this thing,
Mhm.
um, and it will die. But it's up to the attacker whether they want to kill all of your blockers or they want to just do 8 damage to your face.
Mhm. So that's the reason I wanted to talk about it, because that
I think Arena will help with that a little bit because it'll be like you click
do
where
what
you want
what
damage
you
to
want
go.
to do. Yeah. But that is important to note in it. This is not the reason I'm excited or interested in this card. It is the half court or out of the court or up in the rafters shot. Is, last set I picked a card that was X green, get a random card
Yeah,
off the
yeah.
top. This one is get a specific card. So
Yeah.
it's
They're
not so
both
much.
bad Court of Callings, but in different ways.
Basically, that one cheated mana cost. This one doesn't cheat mana cost, but also can get stuff from your graveyard at the same time. So if you're interested in 2 drops or 3 drops, having a 5 mana pull 2 3 drops, you gain 1 mana in that exchange. I think it's interesting. So if obviously you can't do 2 Pelucranos because one would die, but in a big stompy green deck that's using some enchantments that are in this set, I just want to see green be played. And I would love if a card like this, or the card like last time, I want one of these cards to be in this deck. I don't have high hopes. That's why I put it here. But I wanted to talk about a battle, and this is the one I picked. So there you go.
I love cards like this too, but man, they
Mhm.
don't make them like they used to. Like they
They
used to make
don't.
real green tutor, creature
Mhm.
tutor effects, and this one I could see if it's like a creature combo deck.
Mhm.
So you have a few combo pieces that cost 2 or 3, and this gets either one. That's where something like this becomes
Or
very powerful.
both. So
So how does it get both? So I have to turn my head
so it
sideways.
just says
Oh, and or
and
graveyard.
or
Gotcha.
graveyard.
Yeah, yeah.
So
So you can search your library and graveyard.
mhm.
Okay.
So that pushes it over. Like before I knew that part, I was like not as excited. But it pushes it
Mhm.
over a little bit where you're like, okay, play the beginnings of it, that gets killed. Now let's get 2 things.
Yeah, I missed that on first reading. When you were talking about 2
Mhm.
creatures at the start, I thought you meant like you get one off this and then maybe you flip it.
Oh, no. I mean
And I was
like
like, is that getting 2 creatures though?
no. The flip side, I'm not even breathing. Like it's just it doesn't really
It's
count.
there. Yeah.
But like unless you're playing Gruul or something, which I do think there's a possibility of like a Gruul Battles deck in
Mhm.
the format, which is an uncommon I thought you're going to bring up, but maybe it goes in that deck instead, to help you get in there. Non-humans, as Magic should be non-humans. All this human tribal bullshit, so boring.
Yeah.
While I love white cards that are all humans or knights or
Yeah.
whatever.
Weren't you just complaining last week about human soldiers versus human knights? Like...
Yeah, there are 2 wolves inside of me. One fights the other one. One cares. I guess maybe one's a human and one's a wolf. Am I a werewolf? that's
Whoa.
that's basically where this is going. Jesus. Anyway, Jeff, let's keep going. Let's keep going.
Super fun 3 picks. I'm excited to see how
Mhm.
these turn out. So normally we would move on to overrated at this point. But we haven't been like seeing a bunch of cards that people are just really psyched on that we felt necessarily were bad. Like I feel like there's so many different cards that do different things in this set, and everybody's talking about different stuff that there wasn't one necessarily card in particular that it felt like, whoa, why is everyone talking about this? Like
Yeah.
we gotta, set our listeners straight. So instead for this, I tried to go for cards that I feel like people could overrate. And so I have a slam dunk one to start.
Okay.
I hate to do this, by the way. I hate this, but it has to be said. So my first card for a card that definitely people are going to overrate is Monastery Mentor.
Oh
I
no.
I'm sorry, guys. I'm sorry, guys.
No.
This card is too hard to make work. It just is. It's not worth it in standard. In like legacy or vintage or whatever, where all your spells are fucking free. Yeah, that's a different story. And I know what you're gonna say. Oh, it's Convoke. We had Convoke the first time. Stoke the Flames existed the first time this card was printed. Okay, we had that. It's too hard to make work. It's the classic, you need creatures and spells, and if you don't draw the right half of your deck, you just lose. But on top of that, if they just kill your Monastery Mentor, you also just lose. Um, it's a trap, guys. It's a trap. I loved this card when it came out. I have a bunch of them in a binder in my basement. I was going to say they're over there, but they used to be. They're now in my basement. Um,
Wow.
it was too hard to make this card work. Yeah, this is like a reprint for Commander and for I don't know, is this card banned in like Legacy or something or in
I,
Vintage? I don't know, but I know it's good there because all your spells are free. So it's like, oh, I
it's
play Monastery Mentor, then I take another turn, and then I like, sure, yeah, obviously that's good,
yeah.
but
It's
play all my Moxes.
yeah, it's restricted in vintage. So
Right,
yes,
it can't be
you can
banned in
yeah.
Vintage, but
But it's still legal in everything else.
cool.
So
Um, yeah, not guys. Don't craft these.
mm, yeah, sorry.
Okay,
I
the
agree.
mythic rare. Don't do it.
I agree that you shouldn't craft them because they're not a sure thing. But I don't agree with just letting the dream die. If you
I've already let the dream die. I tried, man. I tried. And now stuff is better, and I think that puts this in a worse position than it was when I was trying to make it work. And so, hey, I hope I'm wrong, and one of you figures out sweet Monastery Mentor brew, um, and it just absolutely crushes with it. That I hope that's true. I won't be spending my time on it because there's too much other cool stuff, and I feel like I learned my lesson on this one.
hmm, I I like the idea of like playing it in a different way where like not that this is really what that deck would ever really want to do, but I like the idea of it being in the monomite mid-range deck where most of your cards are like enchantments or planeswalkers. And so it's not as like a you're not using it in the same sense of like, oh, I'm going to play a bunch of spells and like do damage to your face and try to make dudes and like attack and then play instant speed stuff. It's just like I play this card, I play the rest of my deck, and it starts to get bigger and bigger. And like, can you use your cards to deal with this card, or do you have to spend time dealing with my planeswalkers? That seems possible. Like 3 into Wandering Emperor, like Monastery Mentor into Wandering Emperor on their turn. Is that great? I don't know, but that sounds interesting in the realm of possibilities for this card.
Yeah, I think the thing that this card is very enticing,
Mm-hmm.
and the thing that was even true back in 2015 or whatever, build with this card, you can't really play it on turn three. It's just gonna die and have done nothing because it dies to everything. And so what you end up doing is sandbagging it and then trying to do like a 3+2 on turn five or whatever. But like the games it loses you because it does that are just they just outweigh the games where they don't have a removal spell for it and it just goes off because they always have a removal spell for it. It's
Yeah.
constructed. So it's like the power level is there, but you have to understand like how many hoops you're jumping through for this thing. And so I just don't think it's going to make it as like it's pretty good in a white deck that happens to play non-creatures because it doesn't do anything when it comes into play. And in today's Magic, your stuff has to do something when it comes into play. Um,
It's true. That is true.
it's a bummer. I love this card, but I just don't see it, guys. I don't see it.
I'm gonna put one. I'm gonna put one in my mono white mid range deck.
Yeah, and you're gonna
That's
lose a game or two.
no, because everyone will be like, "Why the fuck is this card in your deck?" And it just doesn't trigger off of anything that's terrible. And then I win somehow because of it. No, I don't know, but I understand. I get
I
it.
hate to be the bearer of bad news, folks.
Yeah,
The card looks sweet. It is not. Well, sorry, it
whatever.
is sweet, but it is not good.
Okay, whatever, Jeff. Um, I think all cards are good and nothing has been overrated. So I have nothing to add to this segment, I believe.
Okay. Uh, do you want me to list another one
I mean,
or
like if
okay.
you have more, go for it, Jeff. Let's give us another one of another monastery mentor.
Okay, this was a little less soul crushing and
Okay.
a
I
little
mean,
bit more just like
I like the soul crushing ones. They hurt a lot, but I need you to do it
right.
for every once in a while to like keep you in check.
Yeah, I think the one for me that it's just a card I read and I imagine again, I imagine people are probably rating it higher than they probably should. And for me, it's Hidetsuku and Kairi.
Okay.
Uh, so this like obviously, yeah, okay. So it's two blue, blue, black for a ogre demon dragon, 5/4 flying. When it ETBs, draw three, then put two. So you brainstorm when it ETBs, draw three, put two on top of your library. And then when it dies, you exile the top card. Target opponent loses life equal to the mana value of that card. And if it's an instant or sorcery, you get to cast it for free. So like the obvious thing to do here is take some gigantic sorcery, you brainstorm it to where you know it's going to happen, and you figure out a way that this dies, whether that's sacrificing it or even pointing your own stoke the flames at it or something ridiculous. And so it's like it's a combo card. You would never play
Hmm.
this, I don't think, on its own merits. Um, but I think a ton of people are going to get excited by this, craft this card, and try to create some sort of like Grixis, I'm assuming, combo deck and finds the biggest, dumbest red burn spell that exists. Um, isn't there like a 10 mana deal 10?
Um.
That would be perfect, right? This you reveal it, they
Yeah.
lose 10, and then you cast it and they take 10. There's something like that from one of the recent sets. It's like it's very expensive, but it's a lot of
Let
targeted
me
damage.
let me see. But that sounds kind of familiar. Um. This card, I I have played it.
It's not your type of card, I don't think.
It's not. Um. It is okay. The card you're talking about is from Kamigawa. It's Explosive Singularity.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. So it costs 8 red red and it deals 10 to any target. Um
Oh, so it is a 10 mana deal. Yeah,
yeah,
so
yeah.
that's the dream then with this. You 20 them. That's just not it's not a good combo. There's too many things that have to go right, and like
Yeah.
I
It's
guess it is somewhat resilient. People don't usually interact with the top of your deck. Um, but they'll exile this or they'll counter this or something because it's very expensive, like
mhm.
or counter the spell because you cast it. I don't know. This is the type of card that once you realize that combo, you're like, oh, that's so cool. I'm going to build a deck around it, and then you're 8 wild cards deep on the two
Mhm.
unplayable cards. So
Yeah.
wanted to call this one out, I think.
Yeah, I think that's probably a good call out because I don't like this card. Uh I don't like it. It's I like the idea, but in practice it's like I think what the thing that I don't like about it is that when it dies, it does the thing as opposed to
Right.
when it deals damage, it does the thing. You
Right, because
know,
it's a 5/4 flying. So a lot of the mana cost you're paying here is for a 5/4 flyer,
Hmm.
and if you're comboing with it, you don't care about that at all.
No.
You're like ignoring most of what you're paying for.
So it's like the idea is that you play it, and then obviously the dies triggers because of the dragon, because the dragon's from Kamigawa, the dies triggered.
Yeah.
So I understand why they did that, but it's kind of like, hey, I have this crazy combo. If you kill my thing, you lose. And so they say, I won't kill your thing, and I won't block if you attack. And so then you just end up attacking for 5 and then drawing the card again. So I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't love it.
Not about this one. I mean, maybe
No.
in like Command or something. I don't know that. But don't be crafting this on Arena because
Yeah.
pretty sure the deck is unplayable.
It is definitely unplayable. Also remember that Brainstorm is like the hardest card to play ever. So just like just
Yeah,
don't.
it's so much.
Just don't.
Yeah,
Just don't do it.
don't do that to yourself.
Yeah. Um we can kind of move into underrated cards. I feel like I have cards that I like to talk about, but they don't really fit in overrated or underrated, which is really difficult.
Take it
Um,
away.
yeah, I see. And you said take it away. Um, I want to talk about a card I thought was underrated, and then I continued to read it and realized I don't like it.
Okay. Could have been overrated. This card is overrated by me halfway
By
through reading
me. Basically,
it.
that's what it is. I think that's sure. I'll take that route. Is that like it was overrated until I read the rest of the card and realized I
Yeah.
don't like it. Which is the last Praetor we didn't talk about, which is Urabrask. I don't like this
Mm.
card. I Urabrask is 2 red red for a 4/4 legendary creature Phyrexian Praetor with first strike. Oh, amazing! I love that. So good. It says whenever you cast an instant or sorcery spell, it deals 1 damage to each opponent, and then you add 1 red mana to your mana pool. Oh my gosh. That sounds so good. This goes right into this mono red deck. You blast your opponent with a bunch of stuff. You get a bunch of mana. You keep blasting them. It says you can pay 1 red mana to exile it, then return it to the battlefield transformed. Activate only as a sorcery and only if you've cast 3 or more instants or sorceries this turn. Okay, hard, but I'm getting mana back from this card. I'm going to have a bunch of burn spells. It's going to be great. I'm obviously going to draw them all at the same time. It's going to be perfect. And I bet the backside's going to win me the game. It says the great work. So it transforms into the great work. And the great work is a saga that first chapter is it deals 3 damage to target opponent and each creature they control. Pretty good. Doesn't completely wipe the board, but gets rid of most things. Create 3 treasure tokens. Helpful, I guess, for the next part, which it says until end of turn, you may cast instants and sorcery spells from any graveyard. If a spell cast this way, it will be put to graveyard, exile instead, and then transform it. So I was really excited about this card. I thought it was going to be really cool. I think after looking at all the cards I could play that would just be burn spells and stuff, and then thinking about it realistically, all of it seems like it seems closer to a trap to me. Um, but I was super high. I was like, oh, I love the front side of this card so much. I'm so excited. So in actuality, maybe I just like play the front side and never flip it. But
Yeah.
because the problems with some of these Praetor cards too, this one has less of that issue than the other ones. But like when the transform ability goes on the stack, you can still kill the creature before it transforms. Like you have that window. This one obviously it doesn't cost as much, but you do spend your entire turn using a ton of cards in your hand. Like you only have like 1 shot at it. Like if you don't get to flip it the time you get to cast 3 spells in a turn, like I don't know, you won't. But in the end, I don't think you really need to flip it because like it's not going to win the games where you like mono red has a really hard time with like shield red and stuff where you gain life or big bodied creatures or things like that. It doesn't always have problems with a bunch of little dudes. So because there's like Brotherhood's End, or obviously you don't want to wipe all your creatures, but like I don't know. I it's I was valuing it very highly, and since then I've started to value it a lot lower. So that is why I feel like I wanted to talk about it. Once
Yeah, I
again,
think this card to me is it's a trap.
it's a
It's a
trap.
trap.
It's a trap.
Um, it's not worth that third ability is not worth what it's asking of you. And then the front side, it seems good, but only because it has the backside. It's so easy to fall into the trap of this card. But
Hmm.
I don't think you'd play this front side. Like there's better stuff to be doing at 4 in your
Yeah.
mono red burn deck.
Yeah. Something that has haste, like Rampaging Raptor.
Right, exactly.
So,
And we come back to it's got to do something the turn it's played
exactly.
kind of thing.
So,
I saw interesting Twitter thing, I saw it on Reddit, but it was a post of some screenshot of some guy's feed on Twitter, and it was back to back people that he followed. One was saying like, poor Urbrask has literally always been the worst of the cycle every single time the cycle was made.
mhm.
And then the second one that was like right next to that in his feed was, wow, is Urabrask finally the best one instead of always being the worst one? So like two people saw the spoiler and like both had the same idea that Urabrask always sucks, but
Mhm.
they felt opposite about this
About
card.
this card. Yeah.
And I was on the side of Urabrask sucks.
Yeah.
I don't know if he's the worst one, but because some of the Praetors are cool but pretty bad.
Hmm.
So it's like, yeah,
I think he
no
might be.
Shieldred.
Yeah, he might be the worst one.
He might be
By
the worst one.
yeah, I think so. Uh, so that's that's a bit of a bummer. Um, but oh well,
But
it is
like,
what.
was he the worst one of the previous cycle? I feel like he was better than like Rando Jin Cataxius.
Uh, did people play
Did
the
people play
him?
either of them? I don't know.
No,
We played
but
any of them.
like
People played Shieldred and Vorinclex
yes, but like
of the
which
previous
of the
cycle.
previous cycle? But like which one was worse? Like um, only getting to play your card on your turn and you never draw a card, or countering your opponent's first spell basically every turn.
Yeah, but one was like twice the mana cost of the other.
What's it twice? It was like 7 and 5. That's not twice,
Yeah,
right?
thought Urabrask was 4, but okay.
No, no, I think it was
Uh,
5.
yeah, five's pretty bad.
Yeah.
All right.
Anyway,
Well, all
it
right.
doesn't
Urabrask
matter.
sucks.
I was just, I just, it's just rough. I'm on the
In my
side
head,
of.
he costs 4 because that's what he should got.
He originally cost 4, and then I think the second one cost 5, and then this one
Gotcha.
costs
Yeah, yeah,
4.
I think you're right. Five cents, right?
Um, which was a reason he was not played. But hey, who knew that mana costs matter? You know. But oh well. Jeff, do you have an underrated card?
Yeah, again, sort of been just trying to pick out cards that I think will likely fly under people's radars. So I've picked one sort of particularly here, um, and that's Invasion of Segovia. So this is a 4 defense counter battle for 2 and a blue. And when it enters the battlefield, you create 2 1/1 blue Kraken creature tokens with trample. And then it flips into something. It's a 3/3. Beginning of your end step, you untap 4 creatures, and it gives your stuff Convoke. Definitely some upside there, but mostly I'm thinking it looks to me from perusing this that there is a blue-white token strategy, uh, or like blue-white X could be Esper, say, um, token strategy available, with Invasion of New Phyrexia, but then just a lot of the like anthem effects going on, that I think blue white tokens might be. I don't know if is it tier one. I don't know, but it might be a real deck. And this is a card that would just slot in there. It's a 3 mana way to make tokens with that have trample, which is really good with anthem effects.
Hmm.
And it flips into something eventually if you wanted to. I think, you know, there's a shot that that's a real thing if this token deck people can figure out how to build it. And I think the reason I picked this is like I imagine most people, myself included, blew right past this the first time they read the spoilers. Like,
Hmm.
what is this card? Whatever. Like your brain has auto skip. This card has auto skip written all over it. So it's like, you know,
It.
people could conceivably play this, and most people, if they're anything like me, have written it off. So
Mhm.
uh, that's why I thought it was a good underrated card.
Yeah, I definitely think I like the backside of this a lot as like a play tons of non-creature spells or planeswalkers or whatever. Or I mean, obviously you want to play.
Like play token generators, right? So this they're not creatures, but
Mhm.
now your token makers have convoke.
And anything that you can play at instant speed. So are you just holding up counter magic, or you or drawing cards, or you what like
Yeah,
anything
I'm
that?
picturing it's like tokens, but your spells are counters and draw cards,
Mhm.
which is
Or
where you
like
get the big advantage out of blue.
yeah, or like huge instance that you want to cast that you normally take it cost too much or different
Yeah,
things. I like it. I want to see that deck as well. Um, Jeff, I think it's getting late and we've drank most of our beer. So that was great. Good set. Good first sips. I'm happy. Do you want to go to last call?
let's do it.
Sick. So, as always, we rate our beers on a scale from bronze to mythic, just like the tiers in Arena. Look how that works out. Um, as always, this has nothing to do with which tier you are in currently. The tiers are just a fun way to rate beers. So please don't feel bad when we say that bronze beers are trash. They're horrible. Bronze beers that we rate are horrible. Not bronze beers that have gotten a bronze medal from a event that they've or
Yeah,
competition they've put
turns
stuff
out
in.
that's a
So
different thing. They
it
don't
is
use our
different.
rating system for some reason.
But our rating system means bronze beers are horrible and you can't drink them. They're just that bad.
Yeah, silver beers are not necessarily bad. They're just not interesting. Not a lot going on, and macro brews tend to find their way into this category.
That's right. Gold beers are fine, but you wouldn't really drink them that often.
Platinum are solid. Yeah, you would have this again.
Diamond beers are exceptional. These are ones that you show to your friends, you drink often, and you really like them.
And Mythic, best of the best. These are the beers you can't stop talking about. You drive a certain amount of distance to go get them. These are your favorite beers.
Hmm. Yes. Jeff, do you have your beer for the night? Which one you'd like to pick?
I think so.
Okay. I think I have mine too, but I feel, as I have been this entire episode, very conflicted. So this is a
Yeah.
classic. But here we go. You got it in your hand? Maybe.
Yes.
3, 2, 1. Winter
Winter
Wizard.
Wizard.
Yes. Okay.
Yeah.
I wasn't sure if we were gonna pick the same one this round, but I'm glad it was mine. Oh yeah. Nice. I did it. Um though with that being said, I think both of them feel kind of similar in IPAs.
They were very similar, which
Yeah,
made it kind of interesting to choose.
it did.
And for me, sort of overall, both slightly disappointing.
Hmm.
Um, just kind of IPAs that I didn't love, but weren't bad. Uh,
Yes.
and so they both kind of fell into that category. So it was a bit of a toss up, but I think I definitely like the first one hit me a little harder where I was like, ah, and then
Hmm.
I was drinking the whole thing. And then when I had the second one, I was like, okay.
Yeah,
So I feel that's literally what I'm going on. I
exactly. Yeah.
felt that difference of, okay, I don't. This seems like a mild improvement
Yes.
when I had the second one.
And I can't tell if that mild improvement came from the alcohol I have had since. If I
Right.
started with Winter Wizard, would I think that the Iron Horse Trail was better? But
It's possible.
yeah.
I think it was probably the magic that made
Hmm.
me like the second one a little
I
better.
agree
It was
too.
just more
Yeah.
magical. Yeah.
Yeah. Great job, Winter Wizard. Um, so that, I mean, I don't have a ton to say about these just because that's,
Yeah, they're both kind of
yeah.
in their wheelhouse. It's kind of stock
Hmm.
IPAs. The first one just had a bit of an off flavor to me. I don't even really know what it was. I
Yeah.
just didn't love it.
See, if they gave me the list of hops on the back, I'd be able to tell you exactly which
There
one
you
to go
go.
with.
That maybe that's the real difference
Yeah.
maker. Like these are both pretty mediocre beers, but this one told me what was in it. So
Yeah. So there you go. With that being said, what is that? Gold for
yeah,
both,
these are golds.
double
Yeah.
gold. Really quick last call because I don't have strong feelings for either of them, which means I will forget about them.
Right.
Though I probably will get more Nickelbrook because I like this thing on the back. But
Yeah,
that's
I like what they're trying to do for
yeah.
sure.
We've talked about their logo changes a couple times,
Ugh.
and but this is an improvement on the back. The
Mm.
picture's different, but definitely good in the back. So anyway, kind of disappointing with our beers, but hey, it happens
Yeah.
every once in
You
a
gotta
while.
you gotta have the bad so you can have the good, right?
That's true. That's true. I hope the next few weeks are quite good, but you'll have to wait to see what that is until next
Yes.
episode.
I'm excited.
Um, let's go to closing time. So, as always, you can reach us at the Arena Regulars on Twitter and Instagram.
You may also find us on MTG Arena itself under the username Arena Regulars Podcast.
If you want to talk to me personally and say, wow, you don't know what you're doing in draft and all your picks are terrible, you can find me at Zulberg. That is ZULBERG on Twitter and Instagram. But Jeff, where can they find you?
I will be hitting you up. I have
Yes.
those comments. So for me, the best place is Discord channel. As you mentioned, that's in the show notes. I go by Regular Jeff.
That's right. Also, please leave us a review on Apple Podcasts. Follow us on Spotify. Leave us a review there. Go to YouTube, follow our channel, give us a comment, give us a like. All of those things help a ton to help grow our channel. And if you like us, say something. This has been the Arena Regulars.
Reminding you, when drafting March of the Machine, don't do anything Zach would do.
Good night. All right, that's fine.